And welcome to the 331st edition of Outside the Box. It is November 22nd, 2014. Welcome to our Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving week episode of Outside the Box. And this is definitely a time to be grateful. I'm certainly grateful that I've made it this far. It's been 10 years since I started the video series back in 2004. There's been difficult times and there's been good times, but regardless of the complications, regardless of the challenges, I am still alive and I am still moving forward. Now, as we roll that first video, this is a clip from Trading Places. Not this one, but the second clip that we have in Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd. There's a lot of things to be grateful for this holiday season. And so for those of you with homes, for those of you with the luxury of living in an indoor lifestyle or in an indoor world, remember there's a lot of people out there in Portland that are not. And there's a lot of suffering going on out there. And there's a lot of realities that a lot of people aren't aware of because they're not yet living those lifestyles. And it's not just in Portland where the suffering is taking place, where we have people freezing to death. And in some cases, homeless people are attacked. But the marginalization, that's the worst part about it. When people assume that if you're homeless, that you're automatically mentally ill and someone to stay away from. I would be grateful for the things that you have. And I would also remember that those things can be taken away. And I would remember that if you are in a situation where you are in need, it wouldn't feel very comfortable. If you're in a situation where people judged you because you hadn't had a shower for a couple of days, or because you seem a little stressed or uneasy in some way. One thing I've noticed about human psychology, human behavior, a lot of people like to stay away from someone that's actually suffering and actually going through something. What I would say about the holidays is that if you really want to be a giving person, truly be a giving person and actually have an interest, have a concern as to how someone is actually doing. Just simply giving someone a sandwich and assuming that absolves you of any responsibility whatsoever, anyone else for that matter, it's a way of lying to yourself. To truly care about someone that's in need or homeless in that category, it's much more than a sandwich. It's treating that person like a human being. So these are things to contemplate. So hopefully maybe we can say something of encouragement. I was actually talking to someone that is homeless the other day, and I was talking to him about the power of coconut oil pulling. And, people might want to remember that people that are outside all day homeless, they're absorbing and breathing in toxins from the smog, from the geoengineering, whatever you might call it, the air pollution. And so mind, body, and spirit is very, very important. If a long-term homeless person, for example, a long-term Portland homeless person, it's very, very important that they be mentally fit. Otherwise, there's drug addiction, there's suicide, there's other social ills. And hopefully, by actually being caring people and by being willing to listen, being willing to provide advice, hopefully we can prevent some of those unfortunate situations. Okay, and with that, preparing the next video, go ahead and rolling that. A couple videos that we're going to be playing tonight, back to back. They're all in order. They are all in order as I have laid them out in a 1, 2, 3 type of fashion. This is Puerto Rico. We're not going to play much audio because it's really loud, but just play a little. Just play a little. Give them a taste. Not too much. This is almost like a near riot situation. This is not even one of the 50 states, but it is a U.S. territory, Puerto Rico. And this is last year or the year before, and you could see more of these types of situations being set up, where it seems as if they're encouraging a full-on riot, almost as if they're encouraging violence, as they encourage greed. Greed for what? All these cheap Chinese-made products that are basically no longer worth the same value after you buy them and take them home. They come out with iPhone after iPhone every single year. All the different cell phone batteries. You know how much lithium they've mined in Afghanistan and how much lithium is in a lot of these batteries. It's not very difficult to connect all this. This is one big giant business. And by the way, going over to camera 1 here, continuing to play the audio. Camera one, Bill. This is something that Bill brought in. And you look at just the power that these mega food companies and other consumable companies, how much influence they have, how much strength. And when you really look at, even food stamps, and there are people that do need food stamps, you also look at these large companies that are profiting from the food stamp, the widespread food stamp program, as well as JP Morgan and those involved in the transactions. You don't see a whole lot of organic, healthy options at Walmart. Years ago, the food was affordable to a certain degree, or you got better deals, and so Walmarts became more and more powerful. Now you go into a Walmart, and it's just as much or more than some of the other grocery stores, all by design in order to crush the small independent grocery store owner. And that's what we've seen with Walmart, which is why this video is kind of sad. These people lived very differently many years ago. And here they are just mind controlled to just hop over fences. You see people that got a few extra pounds. It's not difficult for them to literally sprint a certain amount of yards in just a certain amount of seconds. And now from here, jumping to the next video. And we're going to play this next one without audio. This is a current commercial that's running. The next one. The next video. The current commercial that's running for some sort of a droid. And they're being insulting. We're playing this without audio. They're being insulting to their audience. They're being insulting to their consumer base by calling them a droid. So, there's a grooming process in even calling you a droid by being one of their consumers. So this guy is a bozo, but bozos are hot to women of today's world. And he's like, hey, I can't talk. Oh, he falls out the window. Oh, now he's looking at his cell phone maybe there's some sort of way he can stop falling towards his death if he just makes a text just fast enough. And people think this stuff is a joke, but this is really how people are starting to view reality. So they make a whole commercial out of how basically stupid people are with their cell phones. The guy's falling through the sky. He's falling into a garbage can. And there he is looking at a cell phone. It's just monkey see monkey. And there's the woman who's attracted to that retarded behavior. But all this to grab her sweater. That's fantastic. That's real good. That's real quality stuff. Well, we're going to be talking about some real quality stuff tonight. And we're going to start with talking about some of the local things that are in the news. Now, going back to that first video that you had ready to go, James, police investigate reports of sex acts filmed at Grant High School. Go ahead and roll that. And they may make us watch a commercial first, so we're going to go ahead and wait for that commercial to end, and we'll come back to me, and we'll narrate this. But this is probably one of the most sought out sex tapes in all of the Portland police history. I don't really know what is there to investigate. A gangbang between some high school boys and a girl at Grant High School in Northeast Portland, and all of a sudden it's got headlines. How do you investigate that? You mean copy, paste, and put that in your own personal hard drive? No, we've never seen the Portland police involved in child porn before. But you see, this is a very interesting topic. You look at how the youth is sexualized at a younger and younger level, and as soon as they act on those lustful suggestions in the media, then they're punished and called child pornographers. Go ahead and play it.
Involving other students. As Fox 12's Kelsey Watts reports, this may be considered a child porn investigation. Kelsey, why is that?
Well, it's because there's the potential that underage students are involved who were videotaped, and then that was shared with others. And under Oregon law, that's constituting child pornography. But there's another major issue here. Police are investigating whether the students involved even knew they were being videotaped.
Well, I was hearing recently, right before class got out, that there was porn going around, like a sex tape or something going around.
It's an investigation it seems nearly everyone on campus is talking about. Police can only say a small number of students are involved, but the consequences could be huge. Police say students took cell phone video of other students engaged in sex acts, both at Grant High School and off campus. When a school resource officer learned about it last week, administrators and sex crimes detectives were involved.
I'm very actually shocked. People should know not to do this. It's kind of violating.
Police have not said where on campus the videos were taken, but students tell
we got a
Fox
lot of
12
stories to cover tonight. We got a lot of stories to cover tonight on a second-by-second basis. I'll try not to go too fast, but guys in the studio, we are going to go really fast. Going back to my screen, Former Portland police officer going to prison in child porn case. This is April 24th, going to my screen. 2013, right here. Going to the monitor. Going to my computer. Okay. Former Portland police officer going to prison in child porn case, 2013. There's a lot of stories about Portland police officers in child porn, Homeland Security, and child porn. And there's also stories about the servers being ran by the government themselves to entrap people. So the whole world of this type of activity in so many cases involves the government and pedophiles in government. Okay, not just our government, but other governments, the Vatican. Many of you know about the story of Jimmy Savile in the UK. But a lot of this involves Portlanders and Portland government. And it is in the history of Portland to have pedophiles in office. So here's the story right now in case you've heard of it or not. I am trying to find the article here, but it's taken me a minute. Top Obama bundler, reads the article, accused of child rape. This is from the USA Today publication. It's a very lengthy story. We don't have time to get into it. But this person is a close associate of Charlie Hales, the current mayor of Portland. He is also an associate of Sam Adams, as we see right here, left of the screen. So he's been accused of child rape. There are, of course, people coming to his defense, including his legal staff and whatnot, saying it's blackmail. Well, often we see those in power blackmailed, being set up to have sex with little boys and little girls. There's a lot of history involving this activity. And then when they don't play ball or they do something that someone doesn't like, all of a sudden a scandal comes out. But did it or did it not happen? That's the question. In many cases, you do see this activity. They are guilty of it, but it isn't until they piss someone off that they're exposed. We have another video coming up that deals with this story, and let's go ahead and roll that.
Is being blackmailed. Jolie Winaga digging deeper. He joins us with the latest. Joel?
Well, Terry Bean is a founder of the Human Rights Campaign. He's a prominent Obama supporter and well-known fundraiser within the national and local Democratic Party. But tonight, Bean's accused of sex crimes involving a 15-year-old boy, and police fear there could be more victims.
He has apologized over and over. It is time for the city to move on.
This was Terry Bean 5 years ago, supporting then Portland Mayor Sam Adams during his sex scandal with an underage teen. Now, Bean himself, a powerful political and gay rights activist, has been indicted on charges related to an incident with an underage boy.
Yeah, our sex crimes detectives began an investigation some time ago, and during the course of the investigation they learned that these criminal acts occurred in Lane County.
No one
okay, coming back to screen.
Hayden Island condo,
going to my monitor. Terry Bean denies sex abuse charges, claims he is victim of extortion. So a lot of stories involving pedophilia in government and pedophilia in Portland government and sex traffickers that somehow or another seem to be an unstoppable force in the Portland area. You know, we constantly are hearing stories about child sex trafficking, but, you know, it's constantly perceived to be something that the city is fighting. Or are they? When you hear about people in high places that are involved in the same activity, you don't really think that they're actually doing everything in their power to stop the child sex trade. In fact, worse things could be taking place. Other states allow more time than Oregon for prosecutors to file rape charges. And this relates to a story relating to Brenda Tracy. And she talks about a gang rape that she experienced over a decade ago. But because the statutes of limits have ran out, the story is in basically the inability to prosecute. I guess one could ask deeper questions as to why there was not a push to prosecute earlier. And, you know, even the psychology or her psychological state in choosing to not press forward with the charges when she should have back in 2004 when the four men who gang raped her were initially arrested. And so that is another issue as well, the psychological state of the victim when they say, you know what, I'm not going to go ahead and persecute for whatever reason. And that is an issue that we need to be aware of. Sheriff wants to shut down sex conference. Oregon House of Reps may also look into the annual conference. You're hearing more stories about the youth being sexualized, being taught how to masturbate, being taught how to have anal sex, being taught some pretty specific things that some of us haven't learned in our adulthood. I mean, really dirty, nasty stuff that, you know, you typically view to be something that goes on in, say, a hardcore pornography film that's at a adult bookstore. And this type of material, more and more people are starting to figure it out, is being taught to kids at a younger and younger level. A lot of people are going, what is really going on here? I want to say a couple things briefly on this, and we'll come back to this issue at a later point. It seems that the youth, especially young girls, are being targeted, being sexualized at younger and younger ages, while adults seem to be fed their own brand of propaganda to fear each other. So it seems like they're sexualizing the young, really young, and they're almost pushing adults towards an asexual reality. So it seems like there's a backwards type of reality that we're seeing that, in fact, is quite disturbing when you look at where our nation's economy is going, our nation's moral compass is going. You know, the rise in problems like child sex trafficking. When you see programming coming from the mainstream media, and we see programming coming from the educational school system today to teach younger and younger kids how to actually get really nasty, it makes you really wonder, why is all this taking place? So this is something that's happening out on the coast. Apparently some information's been released about some of the information that's being shared at this particular event. And some members of the House here in the state of Oregon claim that they had no knowledge of this event. And they want more knowledge of this event. And they want to know how an event like this that contained questionable subject matter, how it's being promoted and how this is even taking place. So that's some of the stuff that's happening on the local level, and it's amazing because there are people that are noticing issues like this in other states and in other countries. So there certainly seems to be an international push towards sexualizing our young. Now, going to the next video, before we play that, this deals with Mayor Adams, his apology video. I'm not the only person that feels that simply because this is a gay-friendly town that Mayor Adams got off the hook in relation to this issue when he lied about kissing a 17-year-old boy on the mouth, okay? Now, lying is lying, and I've said for years, if he was a straight male and that was a 17-year-old female, there would be women in Portland demanding that that mayor have his testicles cut off and put up on a block as an example, at least I would think. But because Mayor Sam Adams is a pedophile in the sense of, and there's many stories about Sam Adams, don't act like there's not. In this town, people talk. There's a lot of information out there. Don't act ignorant, okay? This isn't about attacking someone because of his sexuality. Doesn't matter whether someone's heterosexual or homosexual. When they're involved with minors and they're in office, there's no excuse whatsoever. Nor was there an excuse for Neil Goldschmidt, the former mayor of Portland, the former governor of Oregon, when he had a 14-year-old girlfriend. These people are in public office. They are supposed to show a higher degree of common sense and morale because they're involved in writing laws, they're involved in budget and finance, they're involved in influencing the police forces. So all of this is really, really important. And this is video from Mayor Adams in January 25th, 2009.
As your mayor, I know I've made big mistakes. I know I have let you down, and I ask for your forgiveness. I believe I still have a very positive contribution to make, to put to work the 20 years of public service to the good of Portland. And as I do this, I pledge to you I will work harder than I have ever worked before to make sure that Portland meets our challenges. These are some of the toughest times we've ever faced. The worst recession in 60 years, one of the highest national unemployment rates, some of the toughest business landscape we've ever seen. Now, rightfully, I know Portlanders are not going to rely on my words and will look to my ability to deliver results to them in the coming months. Like working with my colleagues to prioritize city spending to protect the most vital government services like public safety, like implementing the $500 million economic stimulus package that puts
when I look at Sam Adams, I see someone who's a substance abuse abuser, probably an alcoholic at that particular time. He looks a little more relaxed nowadays. During that particular era of time, after what he did was exposed, he looks like a really stressed out, worried individual. And then, you know, that was actually a really complicated time for the world too. 2009, 10, 11. Portland was not popular city #1 at that time. A lot of our social ills were starting to become more obvious then, and there was a lot of concern about economic crash at that time. We were witnessing the banker bailout situation, the largest bank robbery in the history of the U.S., and just a lot of corruption was being revealed at that time, not just with Adams, not just with the president and the former president as well, but also with a lot of other things relating to government, local, national, as well as international, as well as people becoming more conscious in regards to who we are and what we're doing on this planet. Are we here to just be people that vote every couple years and focus on celebrities and consuming food from the mass manufacturing centers, as we see in camera one, all these different companies together continuing to pump out their toxic implants to people worldwide. Okay, we have another video coming up. I believe this is straight up vulgar flyers threaten businesses. I've spoken before many times about, and I'm starting to see more and more reports on the local level talking about things that I was concerned about in the past, just manifesting. No one goes, whoa, Alex, we thought you were actually completely schizophrenic, completely crazy, that you would even suggest that these things could happen. But these things will continue to happen. As Portland becomes more popular, more gentrified, you're going to see more crime. You're going to see more people in the community take revenge. It doesn't matter what they're called. It's not about color. It's about people that are disenfranchised in a pretty extreme way. And so there's going to be certain consequences, and I do not endorse this behavior, okay? I do not support this behavior. I do not support destroying other people's property. But some aspects of Portland and certain streets are going to start becoming far less safe as the city becomes far more popular than it is today. Go ahead and roll it from Coin 6.
Broken glass in the street and threatening flyers that say you have been targeted. But will you be targeted too if you come here?
Welcome to Coin 6 News at 11. I'm Ann States.
I'm Jeff Gianola. All this happening to businesses in the area of Williams and Shaver in North Portland. Jolie Winaga on the scene live with the story you'll see only on 6. Joel?
Jeff, good evening to you. I can tell you that a lot of folks are intimidated by this. I got a hold of this flyer, and simply too vulgar, that message to air on television. Got a couple of post-it notes to cover the profanity there. Now, these flyers have been posted on businesses just like this. Again, very intimidating. In addition to these flyers, business owners here tell me they're also seeing an uptick in vandalism, in particular car break-ins.
Okay. So
when employees and
it's not just that. It's not just people vandalizing the property of people that actually have something. Going to my screen. Homeless man and dog escape after tent doused in gasoline and set on fire, and that was in Forest Grove. A man reported that he had been set on fire. When deputies arrived, they determined that the man had not been set on fire, but his tent was burned. The 47-year-old man told investigators that he was sleeping in the tent with his dog when he heard someone outside. He called out to them, but said the next thing he heard was liquid being poured on the tent. He said it was then set on fire. The man escaped with his dog, and they were not hurt. So that's attempted murder, okay? That's attempted murder. What if he was passed out? Who cares if he was drunk? So we have there a situation of someone likely with a home thinking that they're going to attack someone that doesn't have a home. They could have been kids. They could have been adults that were suffering themselves. There's obviously a pattern with people hurting themselves, choosing to go out and hurt other people. No one that actually feels good about themselves or confident in themselves would spend time attacking other people, whether they're actually beating up a homeless person or whether they're trolling a homeless person's YouTube channel and bashing them. As one of the few people out there that does a show who is homeless, I'll tell you what, I've given a lot of thought to why most homeless don't speak out about their experiences, what they're seeing in the street. There's a lot of shame that is associated with that label, and it's the way people treat them. It's that superstition that people have. If they're homeless, they must be mentally ill. They must not be applying their law of attraction magic enough. Therefore, they deserve everything that they get, including death over the winter. A period of time where people actually freeze to death, okay? Once your heart stops beating, once your circulation ends, you become hard as a rock if it's below freezing temperatures, and you die. This is the reality of human biology. And so, you know, people are, oh, they're angry. There's been arrests in Florida. They say they're on Facebook. They're against that. And there'll actually be people that they know themselves that are homeless, but they don't know who's hiring. There's no extra room. There's nowhere to park something. And I'm talking about an experience a lot of people are going through. There's a lot of testimonials out there of what it's like to be homeless. There's a story out there locally. 20,000 students in Oregon are homeless. I mean, that is a pretty large number, and that is a story that Street Roots has on their front page at the moment. I've talked about going to my screen. Bitcoin payments by pedophiles frustrate child porn fight. Segueing the conversation to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has seen a lot of popularity. I haven't bought the hype. Okay, I've always been critical of certain things. There's a lot of hype. Ooh, it's not the dollar. Ooh, so it must be great. Ooh, it's anonymous. Yeah, sure, it's anonymous. And you know, I got a bridge to sell you for a couple quarters. People talk about the NSA algorithm or the algorithm key relating to Bitcoin possibly being created by the NSA. There's information about the FBI at one point holding the most amount of Bitcoins. I mean, that's kind of interesting. So you're seeing government practices in real time, I would say, tracking digital currency. And so unlike the Liberty Dollar, where someone's door got kicked in for, of course, trying to encourage people to go outside the dollar system, you don't see that with Bitcoin. You see Bitcoin, let's see if we can bring up that video. You have that video on your end. You'll just have to find it in that neighborhood. Go ahead and roll this. Bitcoin is now in Portland. RoboCoin, digital currency.
Simplify just a little bit. Bitcoin is not a coin. It's a digital
MSNBC,
currency.
Mainstream media is promoting Bitcoin.
Money, and it is not
you still think it's the currency of libertarians?
The people who use it. Person-to-person monetary exchanges, no fees, no banks. One of the reasons why people are so excited about it. Take a look. This is the ATM that was brought into Pioneer Place. It allows transactions up to $3,000 a day per person, and it allows users to exchange Bitcoin and cash instantaneously. At this machine, you can buy Bitcoin, and they're stored in an online wallet.
And preparing the next one, we'll fire that off in just a moment. So we see Bitcoin at Pioneer Place. Oh, are they trading back and forth, you know, freedom-related literature? What is it going to consume? It's in Pioneer Place. So you have crappy, overpriced restaurants. You have, you know, sunglasses in the multi-$100 range. You have the Mac store. You have a bunch of other crap. You have a bunch of insane, you know, consumer good marketplace bullshit items. Excuse me. And so we have Bitcoin in Portland. It's so cool. It's because we're just that cool. We've got Bitcoin. This is not about more freedom. This is about something else. This certainly isn't some rant about dollar loyalty. You know, there's a lot of people that have been making wild claims about Bitcoin that they can't back up. People just get offended like you're offending their religion or something. That's suspicious enough that there's religious zeal behind Bitcoin. I've seen Bitcoin addict behavior from people. Oh, here's half a Bitcoin. Oh, I need my Bitcoin back. Oh, okay, dude, take your Bitcoin. I gambled it away. Okay, have fun with that, dude. I seriously, I want nothing to do with your addiction. If this stuff is like causing you to have like a spasm, like you just speedballed something in your arm, and you're like, oh, I've got 0.2 bit. Just keep it. Just keep it. I don't want no problems, man. Here, take your Bitcoin back. It's okay. And I gave him his Bitcoin back. And I said, it's cool, man. It's cool. I understand you have a problem with this Bitcoin thing. It's cool. I've never once seen a donation come in the form of a Bitcoin. Yeah, it's some libertarian currency. All right, so moving along. Seems like a lot of the news that we're covering tonight, before long the show will be over, a lot of it seems to be local. I meant to get into some other things, but we're just going to go ahead and keep this at the pace that we're going. We have this report here that deals with the professional cuddling operation. I said years ago in the New World Order we would see cuddle houses where people that are so lonely have to go and actually pay to have a hug. Oh, so we have these, you know, cuddle houses in operation. And here we are in the year 2014. We have this report from ABC News, what it's like to be a professional cuddler. Good morning, America. Portland, Oregon, back on the map again. So when we're not on the map, when it comes to pedophilia, when the friend of the mayor and the former mayor is caught having sex with a little boy. Oh, Portland's national news again. But hey, we get to be national news again when it comes to the fact that men in Portland, because things are so effed up here locally, the imbalance between men and women is so extreme. This is one of the most unromantic times in all of Portland history. Here we see these cuddle house operators become really, really popular. In fact, the article goes on to say, and some of the other reports that I've read, that there are thousands of people that are signing up for this. You know, one thing that you'll see in a collective shift in consciousness on the planet, you would see a return to the free love era. Going back to the screen here, love is one of the most powerful things that a human being can experience. Okay, that is something to think about this holiday season. Human love, human compassion, a woman's hand on a man's chest who's suffering or who's undergoing emotional trauma, or a man giving a woman a hug who doesn't necessarily intend to molest her or hold on to that hug longer than it's comfortable for the woman. We need to think about these things. How do we have healthy relationships with each other? How can you start to identify that the world out there is completely sick, completely demented? Evil and greed has taken over the Portland, Oregon area. And these are not normal men and women. These are not conscious men and women. This is a place to come and learn about sadness and learn about misery and learn about despair. And I would say find yourself throughout the chaos and become a stronger person as a result. But if we were just to compare the current Portland to the old Portland, this is not the same Portland. This is not the same Portland at all. So she's got a few books, okay? Nothing wrong with reading a book about cuddling. We shouldn't have to go to a book and learn about these things. We shouldn't have to go and actually, the whole strip club industry, for the most part, is men that are dehumanized, that are spending a few dollars so they can actually look a woman in the eyes and not be called a pervert, not be called some sort of a rapist or a predator. So there's a whole industry based upon monetizing sexuality, and it's starting to approach some pretty bizarre areas, because this isn't so much monetizing sexuality. This is monetizing basic human touch. Oh, it's only $60 for 60 minutes. The other thing I want to mention is I do believe that there is such a thing as evil spirits. And the reality is that it's not just something that's sexually transmuted. Some of you have no idea what I'm talking about. If you're in bed with someone that's got serious demons, you better believe some of those energies are going to be passed on to you, whether you're ready for that or not. That's why certain people don't have 1,000 partners, because you want to know where someone's at. Cuddling isn't much different. Oh, you're dealing with people that are cuddling hundreds of people all day long? You don't think that might be just a little bit unhealthy? We should be looking towards healing each other and loving each other outside of the monetary system. And until you start to see that type of reality, you're not going to see any change on the planet. You're going to see things get far worse. You're going to see more human beings turning to robots for lovers. Until you actually see the sex drive of the average human Earth female today, until that changes, the world does not change. The world does not change. James, can you find that Mark Passio clip? It's towards the end. And let me know when you found it. Until we see a difference in desire, because it's a two-way street. If you want to see freedom on the planet, it's not just about men choosing to no longer be dominators. As long as those men that are willing to fight those wars, as long as those men are willing to serve those mercenary armies, as long as that is perceived to be a sexual thing to the average woman that seeks the dominator, that seeks that aspect of their personality. Before we go to that video, let me finish my thought. When that changes, when you start to see healthy relationships out there, then you'll start to see a different world. This is actually a very serious matter. You know, a lot of people bring children into this world just out of lust. They really don't know how to raise that child. They really don't know how to give that child real values or pass on information about the U.S. Constitution, or a lot of them don't even know about what's in the vaccines, or a lot of them don't even question what they're being taught in the schools. It's just like some accent of biology, like they actually just defecated out a child, and all they try to do is just make sure that child doesn't get hit by a car. But they put that kid in front of the TV set, and that TV set in the New World Order has their way with the TV, has their way with the children. As the young girls are being taught how to give a blowjob, as the young girls are being taught how to twerk for the right man or for the man who the highest bidder, as they're taught to compete with their peers. And then you have the propaganda towards the young men. Oh, put on an Iron Man helmet, okay? Pretend you have an exoskeleton. Oh no, they're just superheroes. It's just pop culture. But then you look at the weapons of war that the military is creating right now. You look at all the drones that are being unleashed. They're about recruiting the next generation of drone pilots. You see what they're preparing for the next generations. And please, don't tell me that you're not just a little bit concerned when you go to the airport and you go this holiday season to visit someone miles away and there's hands down the pants. There's threats of secondary screening. There's glares at you, dirty looks and stares and glares if you don't take your laptop out of the computer case fast enough. Then you start to find out what it's really like to be treated like suspect number one. Going to that video with audio.
I'm not upsetting people, I'm not doing my job. And I'm completely finished moving forward, sugarcoating this. Yeah. 100% completely finished. Not going to sugarcoat it anymore. And as if I ever did. I never really did. But I'm going to be coming out more and more hardcore and recommending an approach for people to deal with this problem. And my approach lies largely with the actions that women can take. Because let's face it, the dominator world is largely made of males. Physical males, the sex males, not masculine energy. I'm talking about actual men, okay? They're not real men. They're little boys who think that they're men, right? Okay, but they're the male sex, okay? And who has the most influence over members of the male sex, members of the female sex?
Females, yep.
Their wives, their mothers, their daughters. That's who they're going to be more apt to listen to the influence of. And until those people really deeply understand the difference between right and wrong and recognize that in supporting these males and their family and doing what they've been doing, they have been condoning and supporting evil. Evil. So they need to step it up and start the non-support of dominators by getting in the face of the men in their lives and saying, unless you stop doing this,
back in the studio.
I will not.
And what we are seeing in the mass media is men being demonized. Okay, but let's go to this. Going to my screen. Charles Manson gets marriage license. There's a woman out here that wants to meet Charles Manson. Doesn't matter that he didn't kill those people. Okay, we know who Charles Manson is. If you're a big fan of the guy and you think he's sexy and you read his philosophies like you do Crowley or someone else, fine. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Whatever. Whatever, man. Whatever, man. Whatever. But here we see another human female that has the necessary chemistry and sex drive, desire, passion for the murderer, okay, for the killer. Here's the difference between me and some wannabe zombie killer out there. The solution is to educate people and to help them get out of their zombie state. To remind women, to remind men, to remind men, to remind women that we are one on a certain degree and we must protect each other. Not have actual desire and dark, sick lust and worship of those that hurt other people or influence those to hurt other people. Whether we're talking about this situation or people that bring home the bacon as a result of people getting murdered in other countries. That is sick. And I'm telling you what, any country or any group of people or families that condone the murder and onslaught and invasion of other people will at some point have it happen to them either in this life or another. And we're talking about all the hells that have been unleashed on the Middle East. Be very careful what evil you support. Be careful what demons you allow to be around you and to be around your children as they're fighting these evil wars and raping and killing on the... Now, find the Grand Theft Auto video if you can. We're not going in an order. We're going kind of random and in an abstract way. Grand Theft Auto, GTA 5. Dignity Village is in the Portland area. Ironically, Grand Theft Auto, the video game, last year, playing it without audio and skipping forward every few minutes here and there to give people an understanding. So Dignity Village, there's only one Dignity Village. And even the way that they show you where Dignity Village is, it isn't very different than the real map to Dignity Village, which isn't too far away from Columbia Boulevard. Now, this is kind of disturbing to see a video game take a real name from an actual homeless shelter and insert in some sort of a player where he has a choice of different firearms, skipping forward several minutes, getting an idea of all the different visuals that are in this. There's no denying he's walking amongst tents. Do you see tents before you? He's obviously at a homeless encampment. What is a gun doing in his hand? And why does GTA, why are parents, rather, still buying these games for their kids when you can still go and hit a hooker upside her head in these video games that kids are playing today? Didn't I just read you? We just read an article earlier about a homeless person who had his belongings set on fire. And if you look at it, that is attempted murder. And that happened right here in the Portland area. Meanwhile, if you need a cuddle, if you just need to hold someone, you better show me that money, honey. Better show me your ability to monetize your need for human affection that normally should be free. Otherwise, it's out in the cold with you, UMFer. And that's exactly how people view the homeless here. Let me tell you, if the city of Portland actually cared about the homeless, if some of you actually cared about the homeless, there would be places to go for some of your friends that you knew were homeless, where they can work on their alternative media, or they can work on building something, where they can get out of the freezing cold. That's what people do when they actually care about the homeless. If Charlie Hales down at the city of Portland cared about the homeless, there would be a building center somewhere, like say Swan Island. And at the building center, the Clean and Sober Building Center, you would have people building things and selling those things on a website. So in a day and age where they have prisoners actually making the jeans at the penitentiary, slave labor, there's so many inmates that have been caught in the slave labor matrix. We'll get to those music choices in just a minute, actually. Going back to the first song, you were just in the music category section. Stay there. You were going over lyrics. I'm already distracted by what you're doing. There's a lot of different material we're going to cover. So getting back to the younger generation, there's a song that I've heard on the radio over and over and over again. Go to the song Animals, and it's 2 before the video that you're currently on. Okay? Now what we're going to do, and I want you to count the seconds that we play this video. Play this video, and at the 30-second mark, come back to me. Do not play it longer than 30 seconds. Now, this is a song on the radio right now. All right, that's enough. Hitting pause. You may have caught the first part of that. Looks like we played that a little later. The first part of that, I want to eat you alive. Now, this song I'm hearing on the radio, on mainstream Portland radio. And so Portland's not unique when it comes to the mass mind control machine. And this is how young people are targeted, going back to our conversation about the sexualization of the youth. But notice how I segued and went into the homeless conversation. These issues aren't really separated. There are some men that are choosing to not participate in these ways of life that other people are choosing to participate in. There's also a lot of sick people out there that prefer to have a teenage girl running their front desk because they think it brings their business greater luck to have a hot schoolgirl basically as the receptionist. It's about sexuality. It's about drawing people back to your business. It's a perverted town. Portland, Oregon is a sick place. So that's actually contributed to more homeless men, older homeless men on the streets, because a lot of people don't want to hire them. They want to have the girl with the tits right there at the front of the business, at the front of the house. That's how things are done here. This is Portlandia. The dark, seedy Portland is not a Portland that a lot of you people have come to address or come to face. Maybe it's because you're currently benefiting from the dark aspects of Portland and you're currently in demand. And so it's only when people are maybe not in demand and in the have-not category that they see how deep the greed actually goes and the callousness goes while people freeze to death in the city. Going to the next video, now this is Pharrell Williams, and this is called Happy. And this is another video that we're going to play. We're only going to play 30 seconds. And but this is like a Portland theme. Coming back to studio and getting ready to play the next one, I'll cue you. So you have this video about being, like animals. And then we also think back to Britney Spears, the end of the world. Lady Gaga, I want to taste your poison. I want to be your poison. And we look at this, just happy, happy, happy. There's nothing spiritual about being happy about other people suffering and dying right in front of you. Sadistically smiling with a Joker face as someone just pops a cap in all these people's asses, right? And there's something spiritual about being happy in relation to the suffering of others. And there are people suffering right now all around you, in front of you. There's nothing happy. There's nothing spiritual about that. And so the other song that they have drummed into the minds of the children, and a lot of you aren't ready for this. A lot of you haven't noticed this. A lot of you don't know who Katy Perry is. It's not just sexualizing the youth and then turning the adults asexual. And I think Fukushima's done a lot to destroy the normal, healthy Earth female libido, especially in the Pacific Northwest. I'd say that a lot of people's libidos are dying out right now by their late 30s and 40s. And I don't think it's actually a funny issue. I think it's a serious issue. And I see that I've hit some buttons in there in studio, but we're talking about basic human sex drive. After Fukushima, reports came out about increase in miscarriages in the Pacific Northwest. So if women know they're having thyroid issues, if they know they're having breast cancer issues, if we know that more men are becoming feminized through the plastics and the BPA, something is taking place within the human species that's taken us into a population decline, but it's actually affecting our psychology. So we have people that are playing God, tampering with our reproductive capabilities, but there are emotional, mental, physical, some could even say spiritual consequences for tampering with the human body. So going to this video here, Katy Perry, they're affecting the human sex drive, but they're hyping up the Earth female preteen sex drive. And this relates to having sex with extraterrestrials or the Nephilim. This is actually a serenade to the fallen gods. Now we're going to pan down the audio in about 10 seconds, and we're going to follow along with the lyrics. Pan down audio. Fill me with your love. Fill me with your poison. Take me. Tut-tut-tut-tut. Take me. Want to be a victim. Ready for abduction. Boy, you're an alien. Hey, I got some news for those of you out there. This isn't about mixed race relationships. This isn't about just the white girl and the black guy, regardless of the video that you saw. This is about extraterrestrials, whether you believe in them or not. And if there's some sort of sickness within our media that's trying to molest the minds of young girls and steer them away from good men, away from men that are actually trying to stop the evil of this world, and they're actually trying to steer them into the arms of those that are evil and play on their physical bodies. And I do think, by the way, that there is a creator, but I think there's something about our bodies. The bodies of the modern earth man and earth woman, they've tampered with us and they've tampered with our sex drives. And for the most part, women today are procreating with the dominator male. And the non-dominator male is not continuing his genes, or you can even say his energy field. It's a world of dominators and those that love them. And this is why you have a new world order. And so when you start to have a different world, when you start to see a shift in consciousness, doesn't matter how poor a man is, if he's actually trying to do good for the world, there will be people there to support him. We're actually falling right now. This is actually a planet we probably don't want to reincarnate on. That's just a little bit of information that I want to give you. We're going into hell right now. This is just the beginning of some of the worst days of our lives. I would appreciate these days while you can, because things are about to get really, really dangerous when they destroy this country. There's a reason they're sexualizing. We're done with the video. There's a reason they're sexualizing the youth at such younger and younger ages. Now, there's another video called Evil Stick. Try to find Evil Stick. It's either right. This is something that you also need to be aware of.
This princess wand at the dollar store behind me. Imagine her surprise when the curious little girl peeled back the foil to find this image of a girl cutting herself inside. The packaging promises fairies and, quote, wonderful music, but I doubt many people would call this music. It's difficult to see the image clearly in the dark, but if you pull back the foil, there's no mistaking it.
If you look close enough, it's not a drawing. It's an actual picture of the girl slitting her wrist.
Look at that. I'm not making this up. This is really happening.
For a child.
Nicole Allen
oh yeah, let's make a toy and tell the little girl to kill herself. I'll tell you what, you're going to see a lot more sexual innuendo on the toys in the next decade. A lot more stripper poles, a lot more blowjob to window. You're going to start seeing it all in these friggin' games. Maybe there'll be Chinese, Russian troops involved in the scene.
The name on it, it says evil stick.
And this, it says evil stick. What's the problem? You want to buy evil stick? I give you evil stick. I'm not sure.
I would inspect it before I even
all right.
to them.
He also said that while he would not.
So I've got a lot more articles. I'm just going to go ahead and read you some of the other things that are going on. What's America's booziest state? We rank them 50-1. Oregon's number 1. No, seriously, Oregon's number 1. Most alcoholic state. Oregon Public School Sex Ed Conference promotes sex toys, sexting, and using meth to 11-year-olds. That's another story. FSU shooter feared government targeting. The person involved in the recent SFU shooting claimed he was targeted by the government. Facebook lays out its roadmap for creating internet-connected drones. It's another one. Here's another one. Mind control, how EEG devices will read your brain waves and change your world. That's from the Huffington Post. Here's another one. Can the military actually put voices in your head? And connected with that, the voice of God weapon returns. That's a 2007 report. But it's important to know what was written about years ago in terms of technologies where sounds, images, sensations can be beamed into your mind. We have controlled opposition on both sides with the new Black Panther Party and the KKK and the Ferguson police. Principal suspended over terrifying school safety drill. Use lots of lube to enter anus slowly. Chicago schools teach anal sex to 5th graders. And 33 students from Scripps Ranch High School suspended over twerking video. We're not really going to play that, but there is a video of all these high school girls that are doing their tweaker thing. And one thing I got to say about women today, for the most part, whether you're offended or not, teenage girls today, if you look at what they're uploading on YouTube, it has nothing to do with changing the world or exposing anything whatsoever. It's twerking. And I understand that twerking is an ancient African fertility dance. I understand what twerking is. It is a normal human expression, and it's highly erotic for those involved. I just happen to believe that as spiritual beings having a human experience, that we're more than human beings that just shake our booty for the highest bidder. We're more than prostitutes. We're more than mercenaries, okay? Call me a demon. Call me evil. Call me server of Lucifer. But I see a very just messed up world that adults and children are in. And there's a lot of adults that don't see this because they're still children. Because they think that this is okay.
Well, regardless of how you
they
feel
think
about
that the
video,
world as it is okay.
Punishment for these students is pretty strict. They can't go to prom, they can't walk in graduation, they can't even play in end-of-the-year sporting events, meaning this punishment is affecting many more students than just the ones who participated in this video. This video was shot during school, on school property, with school equipment. So when teachers saw shots like this on YouTube, they suspended all 33 kids involved, including 3 stars on the undefeated track team.
One of our best hurlers, one of our best sprinters, and one of our best high jumpers are not allowed to run at our most important meet tomorrow because they're suspended for this video.
Junior Emily Benz wasn't in the video, but
so
she says
coming back,
some of the girls
and
who
a lot
were
of you know who Miley Cyrus
season.
is. Miley Cyrus is one of those puppets on a string in pop culture today, like Britney Spears and Lady Gaga. Okay, and so the things that she's been doing, it's like how much further can we push it? Now with Lady Gaga, it was like how gory or strange can I be? You know, how much Illuminati symbolism can I put in my videos? You know, how much blood ritual should I do? Then she came out with that perfume, you know, black magic, sex magic. Oh, this perfume has blood, sweat, and tears and shit and stuff in it. That was interesting. That was revealing. But with this other character, Miley Cyrus, she's twerking on stage with adult men. This is all being shown to really young girls. And you have basically an infantile adult population that believes the official view of everything. They believe that consumerism is God. They believe the official story about 9/11. They believe that, you know, the TSA body scanners are there for our safety. They don't suspect that maybe these pictures are going to future human traffickers. They're going to pick out women to kidnap later on after they bring down the United States and destroy basically the safety net around this country. People like me will just continue to be looked at like crazy, no matter how much of this stuff comes true. And I'm telling you, this isn't about me. I may have experiences that have taught me how the world really functions, but this is really about future generations. We're not going to see things change until we see a shift in consciousness. When we see a shift in consciousness, you'll see a change in relationships, okay? Somehow, some way, human beings started to procreate with dominator type, controller, psycho type of humans, and somehow that group is outpopulating the peaceful humans that would rather not serve these dominating structures. Unfortunately, people get offended. They think you're criticizing all men, you're criticizing all females, because you're criticizing this growing narcissistic, sociopathic worldview that seems to be moving through the planet like a virus. And I would say that these are very, very important issues that we will continue to bring our attention to. We are now out of time. Until next week, I'm Alex Ansary, reminding you that the path to the ultimate truth and place of power still lies within. Take care. Good night.